Hello. Welcome to the David Rubenstein Atrium at Lincoln Center. I'm Cheryl Efron, the chair of the Atrium Advisory Board. Tonight marks the opening of JustFilms and AtriumFlix, a new partnership between Lincoln Center and the Ford Foundation. I just want to recognize Councilmember Gail Brewer, an active participant in the inception of the Lincoln Center Rubenstein Atrium. Thank you for your support, Councilmember. How many of you have actually been in this atrium before? Great. It's wonderful. Well, the atrium, which is a privately owned public space, is Lincoln Center's visitor center and more. Since it opened in 2009, it has welcomed more than 800,000 visitors. The atrium is the home of Lincoln Center's tours. It houses its discount ticket booths, our TKTS for Lincoln Center's venues. It has a witchcraft cafe, free Wi-Fi, and wonderful free artistic programming, Target Free Thursdays and Meet the Artist Saturdays. Many of you were here this past summer for the 24-hour showings of Kristen Markley's The Clock. Tonight, we build on that timely piece with another exciting new film project, JustFilms and AtriumFlix, which is a 6-part filmmaker discussion and screening series here at the Atrium. We offer our thanks to the Film Society of Lincoln Center and to the Ford Foundation for providing major support to make this program possible. JustFilms is an initiative of the Ford Foundation which seeks to advance social justice worldwide through the talent of emerging and established filmmakers. This groundbreaking program has 3 goals: to enlarge the conversation on important issues by investing in documentary films that capture people's imagination and engage them in shaping their futures; to expand the community of independent documentary filmmakers and lift the voices of new and innovative filmmakers from around the world; and to help filmmakers craft important stories and develop strategies for building audiences across a variety of platforms. The Atrium is thrilled to be able to play a part in these 3 critical goals by sharing these films at Lincoln Center's only free and public indoor screening facility. Please pick up an info card or check the website for dates and details of the other 5 film and conversation evenings that will make up the series in these 6 months. Tonight, we will have a discussion with Andrew Dosunmu followed by a screening of his film, Restless City, which will be filmed by the New York Film Academy. You'll see some of them in the aisles here. Next month, on February 19th at 7 p.m., Rachel Grady and Heidi Ewing will be here with their film, Jesus Camp. Now, if you'll please turn your attention to the screen, you'll see a preview of Jesus Camp.
This is a sick old world. Kids, you've got to change things. Boys and girls can change the world? Absolutely.
I pledge allegiance to the Christian flag.
There are 2 kinds of people in the world: people who love Jesus and people who don't.
Speak the word of the Lord.
Where should we be putting our focus? I'll tell you where our enemies are putting it. They're putting it on the kids. How long have you been a Christian?
At 5, I got saved.
Yeah?
Because I just wanted more of life.
You go into Palestine and they're taking their kids to camps like we take our kids to Bible camps, and they're putting hand grenades in their hands.
I got Jesus, yes I do. I got Jesus, I got you. There's an excitement, yet there's a peace with it all too. It's really cool. I really feel that we're a key generation to Jesus coming back. And we are a generation that needs to rise up and run with that baton.
In Palestine,
those who would give up their lives for Jesus.
We're being trained to be God's army.
Got it now!
You are the beginnings of a movement.
Raise up righteous judges!
There's a new church like this every 2 days in America.
25% of the American population, that's about 80 million people.
If the evangelicals vote, they determine the election.
They've taken over the White House, Congress, the judiciary for a generation.
this is just the tip of the iceberg. This means war! This means war! Are you a part of it or not?
The Atrium has a goal of attracting new audiences to the arts at Lincoln Center, but also expanding and deepening the experiencing of existing audiences. Thanks to the Ford Foundation, Orlando Bagwell, who is the director of Ford's initiative, Just Films, and to Jonathan Barsley, who's with us here tonight. Just Films is doing the same exact thing. Ford bridges the best of filmmaking and the best of philanthropy. And Jonathan Barsley is here with us tonight. He serves as the director of the Foundation's Freedom of Expression work, managing the support for public service journalism, media access, and policies that ensure a fair and open internet, artists, cultural institutions, and emerging artist spaces, and religion in the public sphere. Something to say about this movie. So Jonathan, please come on up. Thank you for your work and for bringing Just Films at AtriumFlix to Lincoln Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl, and thank you for your leadership on the Atrium Advisory Board. Thank you also to Becca Arnold and the team here at the David Rubenstein Atrium. I'm Jonathan Barsley. I direct the Freedom of Expression Unit at the Ford Foundation. And I'm here because my colleague and friend Orlando Bagwell has the flu. And I'm really grateful to Orlando for sharing his energy and his passion and his work and not his germs. Orlando and his colleagues, Sharon and Dave and Chelsea in Just Films, have done an extraordinary job since the Foundation launched this initiative a couple of years ago. Though they are modest, they are just back from Sundance, and it's just facts. They had 8 films that they supported playing at Sundance. 4 of them were recognized. And they also have a film that is nominated, How to Survive a Plague, for Best Documentary Feature at the upcoming Academy Awards. So really an extraordinary impact. And of course, Ford invested in documentary film and in film in general because we believe that storytelling has a unique ability to educate and to motivate and to foster social change. And that's what governs the choices that the Just Films team makes when they make their investments in films. And it's also what underlies this partnership with the Atrium this evening. We're really, really thrilled to have Restless City screening here tonight and to have Andrew Dosunmu speaking with us. Andrew's career has straddled fashion and music video and film. It's straddled Nigeria and the United States and the whole world. And it's just a great pleasure to have him here to talk about his work. And we're also extremely grateful that Philipp Engelhorn of Cinereach is here as well. He has also not had a bad year, by the way. Beasts of the Southern Wild is a little film you may have heard of that also will have a part to play in the upcoming Academy Awards. So I'd like to ask Philipp and Andrew to come on up. And I think you're going to have a spectacular evening tonight. This is, I think, exactly what we and the Rubenstein Atrium were hoping to bring to New York with this series. So thanks for being here, and let's welcome Andrew and Philipp. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the Ford Foundation and Lincoln Center. This is Andrew.
Hi, everyone. Good evening.
So, yeah, we're just supposed to have a little conversation here, a little bit about where you're coming from and what got you started. Let's start. Why film? Why? You're a photographer. You've done music videos, commercials. Why film?
Wow. I guess for me, it's really about growing up in West Africa or growing up in Lagos, and actually when I came back to Europe in my late teens and seeing the way Africa is depicted, and at that moment I decided that my objective is really to decolonize colonial images, because that's what's out there, and the Africa I knew is not what I discovered when I came to the Occidental world, so that's where it all started.
Talk to me a little bit more about that. You were born in the UK, but then moved to Lagos. Your family is from Nigeria.
Yes, I was born in England, and at the age of 5, my parents decided that they didn't want their kids to grow up in that part of the world, that they wanted their kids to grow up in Africa. And since this was, it's all about, it was obviously the post-independent generation, and they felt like everything they kind of fought for is what and they don't want that to be what they wanted their kids to embrace. So they sent us back to my grandparents, and we were raised in Nigeria, and I was in Nigeria from the age of 5 till I had to come back and finish high school in England. So I came back to England in my late teens, finished high school, first year of college, second year of college. Then I decided that I didn't really like England. I mean, France was the oyster. So I moved to Paris and got a job in Paris. And my love for cinema started there because I don't speak French. So I started going to movies all the time, morning, day, and night. So that's why I picked up French. And yeah, that's where my love for cinema grew.
Were you, did you start photography in the UK and then?
No, I was doing fashion, and that's what got me to Paris. And then when I got to Paris, I worked for a few designers. Then I ended up working at Saint Laurent. And when I was there, it was amazing because I got to work with he's the master, and I got to meet so many photographers come in at that point when I was working at Saint Laurent. And one of the few people I met was John Baptiste Mondino. I think he does the advertising for Saint Laurent, and the conversation started, and I love film. And I went to flea market, bought a Super 8 camera. I had a bunch of friends, and we just made these short films. And we project here on weekends at parties, and it was just, that's how it all started.
I remember you were telling me the other day, I want to go quickly back to that transition between Nigeria and then coming back to the UK. Where did that kind of sense come from that we see in your films, that we see in your photography, to want to kind of have that connection back home to Nigeria, to Africa?
I mean, I think for me, that's the society I know. I mean, growing up in Nigeria, on every street has a theater group. So at night, we all went to the local square and watch all these theater groups. So my love for theater, and coming from an oral tradition as well, stories are being told to us constantly. My grandmother tells you stories, and between that stories, there's poetry, they break into songs. So I've always been fascinated by that, and especially when you get to this part of the war and then seeing the way you've been depicted, it's often like, wow, I don't know anybody like this. So that's when really the urge to depict what we look like and what people of African descent. And I go through photography as well, because through my photography, it was really about truly representing us. Not even for someone else, but for ourselves, because sometimes we've forgotten what we are. Because the images how we see ourselves is the images that's being portrayed of us, and we have to distance ourselves from that. So for me, it was really about us recognizing ourselves again.
So you were in France, and then when did the move to New York come for you?
Yeah, so when I was in France, I was taking pictures and started directing videos, started directing films, all these short films, and I was fascinated by music, and the best, music, when you talk about, music is in America, so I'm like, if I'm going to do music videos, I want to move to America, that's the place I have to do it, the best bands are here, they're young and contemporary, and those are the music I like, so I'm going to go, and while I was in Paris, somebody saw my short film, a production company saw my short film, and they just had it. And when I moved to New York and I called them and I said, I live in New York now, they're like, oh, by the way, we showed your short film to somebody that showed it to Isaac Hayes, and Isaac Hayes wants you to do a video. So that's how it started.
That's how it started. And how long have you been in New York?
Boy, I've been in New York now about 15, 17 years. I think about my kid, and I think how many years before. So,
so what's home? What's home for you? New York?
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah.
But you still have ties, obviously, to Nigeria.
Yeah, definitely. But Brooklyn's where my family's at, and my daughters and son is right up there somewhere, so my wife.
So that actually, interesting, because you were talking about just cultural identity, and Brooklyn, obviously, in New York, a lot of people come here, chase their dreams and find their dreams, and your films are a little bit about that too. Do you want to, how do you feel, can you talk a little bit about your cultural influences and how that's all how New York is an important place for you for that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've lived in like 3 or 4 continents, by now, and what's amazing about New York and why I really, living here and New York is one of these places where every culture has its own oasis in this metropolis. We all have our, you go to Queens and, there's an Asian family and everybody coexists and everybody is as close to home as possible for them. And they become a part of the society, they become a fabric of the city in a vacuum. And that it's rare. I don't think there's any other city in the world that has that. Mm-hmm. That's what makes New York vibrant, and that's the film about New York I want to make. How these cultures coexist in the city and how they contribute to the city. Mm-hmm. So that really, I'm fascinated by that very much.
So speaking of films, so you were mentioning you were seeing films in France. Do you want to, Nigeria, Nollywood comes to mind, obviously. Cinematic influences, kind of films that have impacted your style and your...
Yeah, I guess, really... Wow. Most of the things that actually influence me are like relatives and from my parents, I think of most characters and I think about my parents, my uncles, and people around me, really. They're the strongest influence, I grew up in a post-independent Nigeria where there was so much optimism, there's so much vibrant, there's culture, everything was so vibrant until obviously we got all the military involvement in the society. But prior to that, it was just so much culture. And I remember as a kid, my father always said to me, that's what was so interesting when I was in Nigeria, because he never wanted us to come to America or England to go to university. He always felt like you were, your sister was the last generation of Nigerians that were going to study abroad, Everyone from here on, because we had great institutions like University of Ife or Ibadan and all that. Mm-hmm. So growing up in that environment was just so, for me, very influential. And we had an amazing theater group. The Yoruba Ensemble Theater was very well known. They traveled across the world. People like Herbert Ogunde and Ola Balogun. Those were like my early influences. Then, by accident, I saw this film, and I think really changed my life because I'm like, wow, who made this film? It's a film called Tokibuki, directed by Gio Mambeti, mm-hmm. Jibril Mambeti, the late Gio Jibril Mambeti, Senegalese filmmaker, and showed me the possibilities of, how we could really tell our stories and how we could contribute to cinema, as an entity, that medium cinema, how can we have an African voice in it and progress the medium.
What was it about that film? Because I don't know how many people have seen the film here. Like, can you describe what the...
Yeah, it was just very bold and daring and really try to almost experiment with that medium, with that cinema, because, really interesting when you talk about cinema, when you talk about the inception of cinema. From the inception of cinema, it was not made to make people of color or people of African descent something positive. When you talk about Birth of Cinema, you talk about D.W. Griffin, you talk about Birth of a Nation, and from the inception of it, we were a negative force. We're not projected positively. And then here comes this radical filmmaker from Senegal that really threw that upside down and tried to create a new voice, and an African voice in cinema. And that was very much very influential to me. So that was it, Then other filmmakers like Usman Samben and Abdurrahman Sissoko, all these filmmakers, what I really loved, because they really redefining cinema and what is having that African oral tradition evolved in cinema.
But you don't consider yourself part of Nollywood?
Nollywood is amazing for me. I love to be a part of it if they let me, to be honest, because when you think about what on Nollywood is done, the audience Nollywood is captivated. It's like incredible. I go to most parts of the world, whether you're in Colombia or you're in Panama or anywhere, what people of African descent are watching is Nollywood films. Because Nollywood films is showing them that there's other possibilities. There's, whether it's witchcraft or a doctor or a lavish dictator, it doesn't even matter. It's showing them the complexity of what they are and who they are. There's, you know, unlike the American cinema, which they've been used to seeing, and often American cinema is never really depicted as positively neither. It's always us being shoved in the back of an NYPD car, you know? So that exactly, you know, is not, so that's what Nollywood has done, is really created an audience and it's shown that, yes, there are huge black audience around the world, because often when you go look for finance, that's what they tell you, there's no audience. You know, people don't go to the movies, people are not interested, but Nollywood is proving that wrong. So I embrace it very much, you know. I like to get the audience.
Speaking of, you did some films for around the World Cup in South Africa. You were telling me a story the other day. Tell me the story again when you were just surprised by some of the reactions that some of the audience had.
Yeah, I had the exhibition of one of my pictures of the World Cup. I did a book a couple of years ago called The African Game, and basically I was in these African cities and photographing all these youths after most of the teams have won, and I took this picture of these kids on the beach in Ghana after Ghana qualified for the World Cup, and I had this huge exhibition in Berlin and in New York, and I remember this kid, this NYU kid came up to me and said, wow, I can't believe this is Ghana, my gosh, you know, next summer I want to backpack and go there for holidays. It sounds like so much fun. And for me, it was just like, wow, I can't believe that he never thought about that, you know. And often Africa is always seen as that other, you know. But it's actually the same place. Boy meets girl, boy falls in love with girl. We experience the same things. And that's not what we often see in our media. So.
And it's fun. It's fun. Colorful. And yeah, how, moving a little bit to Restless City, where did you find the story? What got you hooked into the story?
Restless City was really about what I was feeling at that moment. I was supposed to do a different film called Mother of George, which I just finished.
Congrats, yeah.
And we're about to do that film, and we're in post-production, and we realized that the money fell through, the finance couldn't do it, and all the things we experience when you're making independent films. So at that point, I just decided that, you know, I'm a filmmaker, I should be making films, not chasing money. I called up a friend of mine and had this idea I've always wanted to do, which was, you know, about the experience of young immigrants, and we put it onto paper, called up some patrons of mine, they chipped in some money, and we ended up making the film. That's how it started. And for me, Restless City really is inspired by a brilliant Nigerian writer called Cyprian Ekwesi. He wrote a series of short stories in the 60s in Nigeria called, one of them is called Restless City and Christmas Gold. And it's about the hustle and bustle and how people come into the city. You know, he wrote Jaguar Nana and Local Town. I don't know if you're familiar with the writer. Wonderful writer. So that's how it all started.
That's how it all started. Yeah. So what was important to you? What were kind of parameters or goals you set with making Restless City in terms of the style, in terms of the what was communicated?
For me, I mean, Restless City for me was about youth, and at that point, I really just wanted to do something because after waiting for so long, trying to make films, and you know, I've had 2 or 3 projects like that, fell through. It's funny enough, I was supposed to do another project with Isaac the Bankole that ended up doing Mother of George like 10 years ago, and that fell through too. So it's constantly, and at that point, I just wanted to really express myself and create cinema and our voice, and I happened to collaborate with an amazing collaborator, Bradford Young, my DOP.
Who's here tonight, yeah.
And what was amazing was that we just knew what we wanted to do. We wanted to express our voice through cinema and realize that, you know, often these kind of films were not made. I wanted to be free. I wanted, you know, We wanted to be free, like jazz, you know, just go out and make films. It was not, no, we just wanted to, yeah, that's what it was, you know. Wanted to play jazz with film.
You make it sound very easy. The film is very, very composed and stylized, and clearly like a lot of thought went into the composition of the shots and how certain scenes unfold. It's not a traditional film in a sense of just certain scenes, especially that you'll see later. Where did that kind of drive come from, and what kept on pushing you to want to look at things a little differently and really make sure that the visual storytelling was there and strong and accompanying like the story and the written script?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I really wanted to do films that I felt like was a part. It's really a part of me. I wanted to. We had all these references me and my DP discussed about, but more than anything else, I wanted to do films that expressed what I felt and what I am as an artist. I'm not sort of was wanting to have this expectation, you know, of what this kind of cinema is. And I think, you know, as a visual person, I really wanted to express as much, you know, visually as much as possible. So really, I really wanted to go with the true spirit of independence, if that makes any sense. That's what I was trying to do, really. And yeah.
Bold choices, yeah, and the costumes and everything really fits together. How was it? I mean, you're a photographer, and you're working with a DP who is extremely talented and accomplished and awarded. How was that dynamic on set?
I mean, for us, it was just like, you know, two apostles finally met, you know. I mean, it was just fantastic, because when I met Brad, it's funny enough, when I met Brad, he came up to me and it's like, oh, I knew your work, and he knew a lot of my work, so that was a great starting point, you know. And having similar references, whether it's Mambeti or Haile Gerima or Cassavetes, we connected right away. We knew what we wanted, you know. We wanted Canal Street to feel like any African city, whether you're on the streets of Bamako or you're on the streets of Lagos, the dirt. So, and you know, it's really interesting when you throw a name to somebody and they knew it probably better than you. So that was really, we just gelled you know, it's difficult for me to, I'd rather prefer him to come and talk about it. I think he's in the audience somewhere. Brad, are you somewhere? Come up here if you can. Brad?
There he is.
That's much better, you know.
So Brad, how was it working with this guy on set?
I'm only going to repeat what he said already, but well, I've known Andrew's work for a long time. I've known Andrew's work since I was 18, 19. So, you know, I've been looking at his work for a long time, and a lot of mine, the cinematographers that I really respect and look up to, shot for Andrew. So I was very familiar with Andrew's work. So I'd say that more than anything, the conversation I was having with Andrew when I met him was just a conversation I was going to have with him anyway, because he'd already prepared me to have the conversation, if you know what I mean. So, but it's a very, I don't know if my collaboration with Andrew is very unique, and it's a very egalitarian collaboration where there's, it's jazzy, you know, it's very collaborative, it's very impulsive at some times, but also very calculated at other times. So it's just special, you know. Basically I'm a young person knowing that I'm working with a master, so there's also that sort of like timid thing too. So it's very, very, very special, very, very, very.
And you collaborated again on the next film, Mother of George.
Right, which was not easy.
Not easy.
I went into Mother of George thinking that we were just going to do Restless City, and every day was like, you know, Andrew whispered in my ear, "You can do better." You think that's? Oh, I think you can do better. So it was a lot of just more work, more pressure, more just tension, and you know, hopefully what we did, which, you know, in our own imperfect way, I think we achieved what we wanted. You know.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming up.
And Brad just won cinematography award for Mother of George at Sundance. So congratulations. I think my writer as well, I'm sure she's in the crowd, Darcy Pico, she wrote Mother of George. Darcy, how you doing? Good one. Just have to give a shout out.
So Restless City you did in 2011. Can you tell us a little bit about how the film was received? You were mentioning a kind of an interesting story, and I think it was in Seattle or Oregon.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, Restless City I mean, for us, it was just this thing we did, and it grew to something. You know, we premiered at Sundance. We were selected to be in Sundance in the next competition. That was amazing, and from then on, it was just like, you know, keep going. And I remember you got picked up by a firm, Eva Duvenier. Thanks to Eva, you know. Eva picked it up, and she did a wonderful job. And I remember going to do one of a screening in Portland, Oregon. And after the film, some guy came up to me and it's like, oh my goodness, that's me, that guy is me, you know? And I thought, wow, you know, so I guess, you know, it connects with people out there. Yeah.
That was the goal.
Well, I mean, the boy related to it because it's like, you know, I came to America in search of something, and, you know, I wanted to be a graffiti artist, wherever it is, and he moved all the way to New York, and, you know, became an artist, moved to Portland. So I guess, you know, he could relate to it. And I think for me, Restless City is about that. It's really about a spiritual guidance, you know, that's what Jibril is. Jibril is this character that, you know, at the end of the film, you see him up again, even though he's dead. And Jibril, you know, means angel anyway, you know, Angel Gabriel. So it's really, and for us, it was really playing with symbolisms and metaphors as well of this character, what this character embodies through the city.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did the film screen anywhere outside of the United States?
Oh yeah, it was, gosh, we won the Best Cinematography and Director in Addis Ababa earlier this year. It was in Germany, it was in Munich, it was in BFI, I can't even remember.
And any other kind of interesting reactions you got from audiences?
I mean, people just love the film, so I guess it's, yeah.
Congrats, yeah, that's amazing. You mentioned, I want to go back a little bit to Nollywood and kind of other influences. You were mentioning a film that kind of you just love, Buena Vista Social Club, the other night. Can you talk about that and just where you see yourself as a filmmaker going, like what kind of films you want to be making and how you want them to be in the world and in the film community?
I mean, I think me as a filmmaker, I want to celebrate. You know, that's what I'm about. I really want to celebrate. And I think I mentioned Buena Vista Social Club to you because I liked what it did. I liked the fact that this film celebrated this, you know, this era and celebrated these people. And I really like that. And between while you're in the journey of that film, you discovered something else. And for me as a filmmaker, it's really about celebrating what I'm about, you know, celebrating people of African descent. That's my objective as a filmmaker than anything else. How do I make stories that we connect to, that connects to my audience and celebrate them? That's really it, truly.
So dreams of what's next?
Oh, what's next? I just want to create whatever platform that allows me, whether I'm taking pictures or doing installations, or for me, it's just really about creating and putting out positive images. That's really, because especially when you know, I'm so tired of another documentary on Africa about all these people. I mean, if another one, gosh, you know, you know, there's so much stuff to talk about, you know. You know, there's just so much stuff to talk about. You know, I want to talk about the people, I want to celebrate the people, and that's what I'm about. Not that that doesn't exist, but there's other stuff as well.
Would you ever consider making a film in
Oh
Africa?
yeah, I'll do it in a minute.
Yeah? What's stopping you?
Finance.
But so Mother of George was set in New York. Next film also set in New York?
Yeah, I like to do films about New York. I like New York. I really like to, I like to show the New York I know, the New York I lived,
I thought it was interesting you were mentioning that you want to go epic next. And I think it's interesting because the way the shots are, you'll see the shots are epic in a way, even though they're, oftentimes in a small apartment or anything else, but they're epic shots. So I think it's interesting that you said you want to go epic. What do you mean?
But epic for me is really about, like I said, the notion of epic is like, how can we transform? I'm really interested in how I can, like I said earlier on, how can I use cinema? How can I tell stories differently in that format? Because I think we have to find other ways beyond verbal to create a story, and I'm in search of that, what that is, And coming back to the oral tradition as well, that's what I really love about oral traditional storytelling, is that someone is telling you a story, and between that story, there's music, there's dance, there's poetry, there's narrative, and how can you combine all of that into cinema? So that's what I'm trying to do, almost deconstruct it and still connect emotionally with an audience, but not necessarily going your narrative or your narrative way, I guess.
And that's why
So that's what I meant by epic in that sense of what one could do,
Yeah.
How vast and grand, one could, whatever that means, it's not necessarily got to do with landscape, but mind, really, where it could go. Like I said, like we all talked about jazz, what's amazing about jazz is the fact that it's so beyond, here comes the sax player that comes on stage, and wherever he decides to go, it's just, you're out of leap, but you come back again and be on the track. So for me, I really want to create films like that.
And I assume, that you're definitely staying in the fiction world. A documentary, no interest?
I do, as long as it celebrates. As long as it's celebrating people, definitely, I'm open to, and like I said, I'm open to every form of image making.
Yeah.
So there's no, whether it's documentary or music videos or installation, I am open to it all. There's no limits in it to me. I don't believe that you're a filmmaker or and you cannot do commercials or you cannot do installation or video. If one allows you to do it, you should, because cinema is a craft, and the more you do, the better you get. Filmmaking is a craft, rather. The more you do, the better you get. You get to all your wheels and you just discover things. And I think I'm being able to do the kind of films I make because I had that luxury of playing in the music video world. That allowed me so much. Often filmmakers are writing their scripts for 3 years and then finally getting the money, and that's the first time they're in front of a camera, 3 or 4 years later after they're working on the script. So you kind of rusted in a way, and when you're constantly shooting, you just get better. You're able to experiment, you're able to try stuff, and that's the beauty of it.
And you're still doing photography too.
Yeah, I do it all.
But I thought, you mentioned, you were just saying with the writing, and I thought there was something really interesting you told me yesterday that I haven't heard a lot of filmmakers that we work with say, which is the fact that you aren't writing your own scripts. Why is that?
I think there's this ego about filmmaker, a writer-filmmaker thing, everybody wants to be a writer-filmmaker, and for me, I just felt like I have invested the last 25 years of my life into image making, watching images, taking pictures, doing all of that, and I need to collaborate with writers that have invested that amount of time in their writing. And if I have to write things for me to make, if I write my own script, I just limit myself because I only write what I know. I only write what I can do. But I really want to get a force that has invested that much amount of time in their writing, and the collaboration is what makes a great movie. And that's what's so amazing when you look at these classic films like Taxi Driver or Saint-Jacques or all those films, because they were great writers and great visual directors, and they combined and made a great film. And now everybody kind of wants, I think some people can do it brilliantly. I just don't think most directors can. And most directors just wants to have that ego of, I'm the director, I'm the writer, I'm the producer,
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense. Yeah, yeah.
So for me, that's what I'm about. You know, how can I find great writers, brilliant writers to collaborate with? You know, that basically invested their whole lifetime into writing.
Yeah. So right now, where are you headed next?
We just premiered Mother of George, and you saw it in Sundance.
Congrats,
you know?
yeah, fantastic.
You know? Yeah, it was
You happy with that experience? How was Sundance for you?
It was a success. I mean, you saw it. What do you think?
Packed audience? It was good, yeah, it was really fantastic.
Yeah, we just did that, and we're going to premiere in Europe on one of the European festivals soon, and we got picked up by Oscilloscope, which is a fantastic distributor, because I love their catalog of films. I mean, they've got amazing films, so I'm sure we're going to do a great work together. Yeah, and just really pushing that, and hopefully it comes out in the fall, and embarking on the next journey, you know?
You find some place to re-energize, to get ready for the next project, or is it just constantly with you, you're ready to go?
I just want to backpack right now, backpack and travel, take pictures.
Any specific location?
Huh?
Anywhere in the world?
Anywhere I can take my daughter, because she can't allow me to go anywhere anymore without her.
So is there anything else you want to kind of prepare the audience for seeing this film, Restless City? Any other kind of...
Well, I don't know if you've seen it. Restless City really is about it really deals with consequences of displacement. Talks about this young man that is driven, and is driven, and he believes New York is where he can make it, and what one encounters and how one gets distracted along the way. It's what it's about, really. You know?
Can you talk about the team a little bit, the actors, and where you found them?
Yeah, actually, interesting, Denai Guerrera plays Sissy, the salon owner in Restless City, and it was wonderful working with Denai. And I remember when we were casting Mother of George, I just couldn't see anyone else but Denai to play that character. So it was amazing. How things work, you know, just there's a different force that shapes things, you know, whether working with Denai or working with Brad, and you meet people under a different circumstance, and you create a relationship, and it evolves to something else. So Denai is playing Cece here, a young actor called Sky Nicole, Jamaican actor. She's in Better Must Come. I don't know. She plays Trini. She plays Cece. Trini. Sorry. And Sai is a young Senegalese actor. Yeah.
Plays the main part. Where did you find him?
Sai, wow, I don't know. Sai was someone I ran into on the street randomly through a friend. And I remember asking him if he's acted before. And it's like, and I played the American in Paris one time, long time ago. I'm like, okay. And 6 months later, I ran into him in this audition, and I tried to cast actually a good one. When we were casting Restless City, we had a great casting director, and we called in young actors, and everyone, basically all the young actors in The Wire came through, and they all had this image of what this young African guy is, you know. They just have this perception of what this guy is about, you know, which is often what they see on TV as well, you know. And for me, I just wanted someone else, because I felt like Jibril is this character that, in order for him to get here, he's been through like 3 or 4 continents, probably speaks 4 or 5 different languages. So there's so much about this person, you know, and everything is internal. He's not aggressive. He knows what he wants. He's been through so much to get here. So I really wanted that, and most of the actors never embodied that. And when Sai walked in, we just knew right then that this was the character. He had so much aura about him, and so much internal struggle and elegance, that I really wanted that character to have. So that's how I got Sai. And Denai, I've heard about her. I've seen her in a play. She was a Yale graduate, and saw her like in The Visitor, like 6, 7, 8 years ago, and she disappeared. You didn't see her anymore. So I thought, and met her, And it was just wonderful. We just connected, and I knew she could play she would be perfect for the character. And for me, working with actors is not really, working with actors is really about a vibe. It's really about, because I'm the kind of person that I just like to create the world for the actors, you know, and put them in a space where they can surprise me. Because in order for me, if I tell them what I want, then there's no point. I want to be surprised, and how can I create that canvas for them to play with, that space for them to play where they can surprise me, and that's what I'm looking for. So I try to create a world for them and give them the freedom to play within that space. And Denai, it was wonderful working with her on Restless and going to Mother of George with I and Isaac the Bankole. They were just amazing together. It was just their demand for actors. My demand for actors just elevated after seeing those two because they were just so brilliant.
Well, it shows. It definitely shows. The aura they kind of have on screen is absolutely fantastic. Well, thank you so much for providing some insights into
Thank you
your process.